amount of drugs, guns, and money seized in a multi-state bust in Washington and Arizona after a long investigation into connections between a white supremacist prison gang and Mexican cartels.
Hidden beneath an unassuming warehouse, federal agents uncovered a staggering fortune, the largest cartel cash vault ever seized in U.S. history. Stacks of bills. This was a joint investigation involving the Drug Enforcement Administration, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, and Beverly Hills PD. Secret compartments and unimaginable wealth revealed the scale of organized crime like never before. Every corner hid shocking evidence, exposing the lengths criminals go to protect their empire. What they found inside didn't just stun investigators. It challenged everything we thought we knew about the reach and sophistication of modern cartels. Raiding the largest cartel cash vault in America. In a staggering operation, the FBI seized what could be the largest cartel-linked cash vault in American history, targeting hundreds of safe deposit boxes at U.S. private vaults in Beverly Hills. The company had been indicted for alleged drug trafficking, money laundering, and connections to high-level cartel activity. From 369 boxes alone, agents confiscated $86 million in cash, alongside millions more in gold, silver, luxury watches, gemstone jewelry, and even $1.3 million in Las Vegas casino chips. Prosecutors argued that the assets were tied to criminal activity, though they presented no evidence to support the claim. Under U.S. forfeiture laws, the government can seize suspected criminal assets with minimal proof, far below the standard required for a criminal conviction. Critics say this gives prosecutors broad power to take property first and justify it later. While officials in Los Angeles maintained the seized items appeared suspicious, citing large sums of unexplained cash and connections to individuals with criminal records, yet possession of any amount of money is legal. The raid unfolded over 5 days in a quiet Beverly Hills strip mall. FBI agents returned roughly 75 boxes and planned to release at least 175 more, acknowledging no evidence of wrongdoing in those cases. Many other boxes remained unclaimed or unidentified. The indictment accused U.S. private vaults of marketing itself to clients seeking anonymity from law enforcement and tax authorities, with some staff allegedly helping customers convert cash into gold to avoid scrutiny. Box holders faced a grim choice: surrender their property or fight in court, exposing their identities and risking high legal fees. Attorneys warned that the government's approach forced citizens to choose between privacy and property rights. While magistrates had authorized seizure of the boxes as physical assets, agents were not supposed to inspect their contents. Yet video records showed envelopes opened, documents examined, and valuables cataloged in detail. In one instance, an elderly woman's box was emptied on camera, each item photographed page by page. Later, 75,000 gold coins from her stash were discovered missing, sparking additional litigation. The government denied mishandling items, insisting that every search was documented and witnessed by multiple agents. Officials also cited alerts from drug-sniffing dogs on some cash, though courts have long questioned such evidence, given that most currency carries traces of narcotics. Cash seized ranged from a few thousand to more than $2 million per box. The FBI declined to clarify how many forfeitures relied solely on dog alerts. The raid unveiled a hidden world of staggering wealth, locked away in secrecy, turning the lives of those caught in its wake into a high-stakes struggle over property, privacy, and the reach of government power. For anyone wondering just how deep federal involvement runs, the extent of agents embedded in cartel operations is nothing short of shocking. The inside job. For more than a decade, the DEA ran a high-stakes money laundering operation for a Colombian drug cartel, moving cash and cryptocurrency through accounts controlled by agents, sources, and the cartel itself. Over the course of the investigation, the operation handled $19 million in drug proceeds, ultimately leading to the arrests of 2 heroin traffickers. A recently unsealed seizure warrant reveals the depth of the DEA's involvement, showing how the agency embedded itself in the cartel's efforts to conceal wealth, both through traditional cash transactions and digital currencies. While 2 arrests may seem modest for years of effort, former federal agents note that the operation likely generated intelligence and leads for other investigations, providing insight that would otherwise have remained in criminal hands. The DEA's undercover work began in 2009, infiltrating money laundering networks across the U.S., Colombia, and Mexico, all tied to a Cali-based cartel known internally as the Picoso. Often compared to the Sinaloa cartel, the Picoso specialized in large-scale cocaine trafficking and relied on intricate systems to obscure the source of its income. Individuals were recruited to move or deposit cash across multiple accounts, masking the origin of illicit profits. Undercover agents and sources were recruited for these roles, meeting cartel money brokers in public spaces, streets, parking lots, and shopping malls to collect cash, often sealed in plastic bags and heavily perfumed to evade detection by sniffer dogs. Some pickups exceeded $100,000, which were then divided and funneled into bank accounts for laundering. By early 2018, the cartel directed agents to transfer more than $150,000 from a bank account into a Coinbase account, converting it into over 13 Bitcoin through a source at Xapo Bank, a Gibraltar-based institution blending traditional banking with virtual currency management. Each successful transaction earned the agents and their sources a commission ranging from 2 to 16% of the laundered amount. The operation not only provided investigative insight, but also ensured that illicit funds were temporarily controlled and accounted for by law enforcement, preventing them from circulating unchecked. Now the Justice Department is moving to reclaim assets from the operation. One of the 2 arrested traffickers was ordered to forfeit $1 million last year. With the recent seizure warrant, the government is also attempting to recover cryptocurrency, which, due to Bitcoin's rise in value, is now worth over $1.5 million. Even the inside job couldn't reveal the full scale of the Artex fortune, barely scratching the surface of the vast sums they launder out of sight. Money flow in the underworld. The Sinaloa cartel, based along Mexico's northern Pacific coast, commands one of the most profitable criminal enterprises in the world. According to the U.S. State Department, Mexican drug trafficking organizations generate between 19 and 29 billion annually by selling marijuana, cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine in American cities. Among them, Sinaloa is considered the wealthiest and most powerful, with the capture of Joaquin Chapo Guzman casting a spotlight on the sprawling smuggling empire he built.
A key element of the cartel's success has been exploiting the global banking system to launder vast amounts of cash, moving it with minimal scrutiny. Between 2007 and 2008, the Sinaloa cartel, together with a Colombian counterpart, transferred $881 million in illicit proceeds into U.S. bank accounts. HSBC, one of the world's largest banks, became a primary conduit, allowing cartel operatives to deposit hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in a single day, using boxes designed to fit the dimensions of teller windows at its Mexican branches. Investigations later revealed that basic anti-money laundering controls were ignored, with the Mexico affiliate wiring $7 billion to corresponding U.S. accounts in New York. Much of this cash came from illicit sources, though internal failures and a lack of compliance culture allowed transfers to proceed unchecked. The dollar flows generated significant fees for HSBC, highlighting the financial incentive that sustained the system. In Culiacán, the capital of Sinaloa, the brazenness of the operation stunned residents. Money moved openly through office buildings, luxury cars, and professional-looking operations appearing entirely legitimate. While law enforcement emphasized the sophistication of cartel money laundering, analysts and journalists noted the process was straightforward, relying on volume and opacity rather than advanced techniques. The consequences for HSBC were significant. The U.S. Department of Justice imposed penalties and forfeitures totaling $1.9 billion for failures in anti-money laundering compliance and for concealing prohibited transactions with nations including Iran and Cuba. In response, HSBC implemented reforms, strengthened monitoring systems, and expanded its financial crime compliance workforce, increasing full-time personnel by 54% between 2012 and 2013. Despite these efforts, the banking system remains vulnerable. Anti-money laundering regulations have improved, with banks investing in compliance programs, know-your-customer rules, and the identification of high-risk clients. Yet, the sheer volume of illicit proceeds from the drug trade creates persistent pathways for money to flow into the financial system, often circumventing controls, like water finding its way through cracks in rock. HSBC was neither the first nor the last institution implicated in money laundering scandals. In 2010, Wachovia Bank was found to have facilitated at least $110 million in cartel funds through Mexican currency exchanges. In 2012, FBI investigations revealed how the Zetas cartel laundered cash through a Texas racehorse operation using Bank of America. Most recently, Western Union agreed to bolster safeguards in its money transfer business along the southwest border. Across Mexico, currency exchange houses now operate under stricter rules intended to limit large dollar transactions. Yet, law enforcement continues to monitor the flow of illicit funds closely, anticipating the next innovation the narcos will deploy to keep their billions moving undetected. When it comes to massive narco cash flows, one name stands above all: Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria. He bypassed banks entirely, and decades later, traces of his fortune still surfaces in the most unexpected places. The king of the Medellin cartel. In the 1970s, Colombia's criminal underworld was crowded with smugglers and petty thieves, but Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria quickly rose above them all. Born to a farmer and a schoolteacher, Pablo began with small-time hustles, selling fake diplomas, reselling stolen tombstones, and trafficking hot cars. By the mid-1970s, he had discovered a far more profitable enterprise: cocaine. By the 1980s, Escobar's Medellin cartel had built an empire stretching from jungle labs in Colombia to nightclubs in Miami and safe houses in Los Angeles. At its height, the cartel brought in an astonishing $420 million every week. Escobar's personal fortune exceeded $30 billion, so vast that Forbes once listed him as the 7th wealthiest man in the world. Yet even this staggering wealth presented a problem. He had more cash than he could safely store. Banks in Colombia were unreliable and often untrustworthy. Attempts to stash money in warehouses proved disastrous, with rats gnawing through piles of bills and mold consuming entire fortunes. Escobar's own brother later admitted that roughly 10% of the cartel's profits vanished each year due to damage, theft, or misplacement. On one extreme, during the family's flight from authorities in 1992 to 1993, Pablo reportedly burned $2 million just to keep his daughter warm. To secure his overflowing wealth, Escobar devised one of the most unusual storage solutions in criminal history. Burying barrels and crates stuffed with US dollars across Colombian fields, jungles, mountain hideouts, and other remote locations became secret vaults with trusted men drawing maps, memorizing coordinates, and fiercely guarding the knowledge. But Colombia was a country at war. The Medellin cartel faced relentless pressure from the government, the DEA, rival cartels, and paramilitary death squads. Many of those who knew the hiding places were eliminated before they could reveal the secrets. As a result, vast sums of money began disappearing into the soil. By the late 1980s, Escobar's power was near absolute. He bribed politicians, threatened judges, and waged open war on anyone who opposed him. At one point, he even offered to pay off Colombia's entire $10 billion national debt in exchange for immunity from extradition to the United States. Time, however, was running out. In 1991, under pressure, Escobar surrendered on his own terms. He built his own prison, La Catedral. Equipped with a nightclub, sauna, waterfall, private soccer field, and modern communications, from inside he continued to run his empire and conceal his fortune. His eventual escape triggered a relentless manhunt involving U.S. intelligence, Colombian authorities, and rival cartels. On December 2, 1999, a day after his 44th birthday, Escobar was tracked to a Medellin safe house. Attempting to flee across rooftops, he was fatally shot, though some believe he took his own life, choosing death in Colombia over imprisonment in the United States. After his death, authorities seized his mansions, vehicles, planes, and other properties, while rival cartels scavenged whatever they could find. His wife and children fled under new identities, later claiming that the family inherited little. Even with these seizures, vast amounts of Escobar's cash never surfaced. Investigators estimate that more than $10 billion of his fortune remains buried across Colombia, hidden in rusting barrels, rotting crates, and forgotten pits in fields, jungles, and mountains. Over the decades, some of these stashes have resurfaced, turning legend into reality. Escobar's buried billions, long thought lost to time and violence, have started appearing in the most unexpected places. The new gold rush.
In recent years, Colombian farmers working the same lands their families had tilled for generations began uncovering unexpected treasures beneath the soil. Shovels struck more than rock and clay. They hit buried barrels, crates, and bundles of US dollars tightly wrapped in plastic. These discoveries offered sudden fortune. Yet each find also carried the fragile, cursed legacy of Escobar's hidden wealth. One of the most famous cases involved José Mariana Cartolo, a 65-year-old farmer whose family had lived on the land for over 2 centuries. In 2010, he received a modest government grant of $3,000 to start a palm oil plantation. While digging trenches for irrigation, Cartolo's shovel struck something unusual, hard, hollow, and unlike the familiar soil. Soon, he uncovered the rim of a blue plastic container. One barrel led to another, and another. When he opened the first barrel, he discovered bundles of US dollars preserved in plastic, filling it from top to bottom. Reports later suggested the stash could total as much as $600 million. The story spread quickly, capturing attention nationwide and abroad. For years, Colombians had whispered about buried barrels in jungle vaults left behind by Escobar. Now, the legend seemed real. Reality, however, was more complex. Official reports stated that Cartolos did not keep a single dollar. Authorities took custody of the discovery and promised to use it to fund social programs. Rumors swirled. Some questioned the amount, and others suspected fabrication. Eventually, police labeled the Cartolos case a hoax. Yet the legend had already sparked a frenzy. Farmers across the countryside began digging, convinced they might strike a similar fortune. Journalists dubbed it a new gold rush, though most unearthed nothing but dirt. Across Colombia, informal money changers known as combistas circulated old or damaged US dollars at a fraction of their value, often 10 or 20 cents on the dollar. In return, they cleaned, pressed, and funneled the bills into contraband networks. In some towns, entire shops accepted worn currency without question, becoming informal conduits for hidden wealth. Police reports from the late 1990s and early 2000s documented sudden spikes of U.S. currency in villages with no apparent foreign income. Authorities suspected recovered narco cash was quietly being spent, transforming local economies overnight. A struggling farmer might suddenly buy a truck, renovate his home, or purchase livestock in bulk. Entire communities could appear to leap from poverty to prosperity, triggering gossip, envy, and increased police scrutiny. One notable case near Antioquia revealed families purchasing motorcycles, televisions, and other luxuries previously out of reach.
Investigators believed a hidden stash had circulated quietly through barter, bribes, and clandestine transactions. Yet the prosperity was fleeting. Eventually, police seized the goods, erasing the trail of cash. A 2009 DEA report described narco cash flowing like groundwater seeping through cracks, invisible at first, yet slowly warping local economies. Laundering often required more than discretion. Discoverers had to shield stashes from police, rival hunters, and lingering cartel affiliates. Bribes became a necessary expense, turning stacks of bills into tools of silence, loyalty, and protection. In areas where Escobar's influence had been strongest, old rules persisted. The infamous mantra, plata o plomo, silver or lead, served as a stark warning. Accept the bribe or face deadly consequences. Even decades after his death, Escobar's money continued to wield power. Authorities struggled to contain this underground flow. Escobar's fortune had not vanished. Former associates claimed billions remained buried, and every rumor risked triggering a local gold rush. In Medellin, police raided abandoned safe houses, uncovering cash hidden behind walls, under tiles, or inside furniture. Yet for every official seizure, whispers persisted of countless more discoveries invisible to the public, quietly shaping towns long after the cartel's collapse. The legend endured, with buried stashes proving real in later cases. In 2020, Escobar's nephew, Nicolas Escobar, unearthed cash in Medellin while living in one of his uncle's former properties in Los Palmos. With knowledge of the cartel's hidden compartments, he broke through walls to reveal plastic-wrapped bundles valued at roughly $18 million. Alongside the money were a gold pen, a camera, rolls of undeveloped film, a typewriter once used for cartel communications, and old satellite phones. The find confirmed suspicions. Escobar's home still held secrets decades after his death. Time, however, had taken its toll. Money hidden for more than 30 years had decayed, reduced by rot and moisture into fragments. Even bills, once powerful enough to bribe judges and sway politicians, crumbled. Nicholas's discovery only deepened the mystery. If millions remained in walls, how many more barrels could still lie hidden across fields, homes, and roads? Invisible, yet potent, waiting to be unearthed. Escobar's secret stashes from the swamps and jungles of Colombia to luxury estates in Miami. Treasure hunters, law enforcement, and even men claiming to be Pablo Escobar's descendants have chased the promise of hidden millions. The search has never been safe. Escobar's stashes were often protected with traps, explosives, and landmines, grim reminders that his reach remained lethal, even in death. Countless seekers risk everything for the chance at sudden fortune. Some unearthed small sums, but many more found only danger or ended up behind bars for trespassing on confiscated cartel property. The obsession has spread beyond Colombia. In the United States, Escobar's name still sparks hunts for hidden loot. In 2016, a Miami mansion once owned by the drug lord changed hands. Workers tore down walls and swept the property with metal detectors. 2 safes were uncovered. One vanished mysteriously before its contents could be checked, and the other yielded little of value, hardly the millions imagined. For authorities in Colombia and the U.S. Drug Administration, the hunt has been both a duty and a race against time. While treasure hunters dig illegally, law enforcement has occasionally made official discoveries. In November 1989, before Escobar's death, authorities in Medellin unearthed $5 million in cash preserved in underground vaults. The find offered tangible proof that Escobar,
always wary of banks and betrayal, had hidden vast sums across the country. Even then, it was only a fraction of his fortune. A few months later, investigators uncovered $25 million in rotting banknotes alongside 150 kilograms of gold, a treasure so immense that it could have financed a small nation.
2 decades later, in 2009, Escobar's grand estate, Hacienda Nápoles, revealed $10 million hidden undergrounds. Even after the property had been confiscated and transformed into a public park, the drug lord's shadow lingered, daring the curious to dig deeper. Modern technology has joined the hunt. Ground-penetrating radar, advanced imaging, and drones are used to locate stashes. The Discovery Channel series Finding Escobar's Millions followed 2 former DEA agents, Chris Feistel and Jerry Salame, as they scoured clandestine airstrips, jungle labs, and hostile farms to reclaim a hidden fortune for Colombia. The series showed how dangerous the search remains. Rural communities often retain deep loyalties to Escobar, viewing him as a Robin Hood figure. Outsiders searching for treasure encounter suspicion, hostility, or worse. Active cartels in the same regions blur the line between past and present danger. The story has even stretched abroad. In London, a man claiming to be Escobar's secret son insists he was passed coded messages pointing to hidden treasure in Colombia. He published a book and appeared on television, but no treasure was ever found, and Colombian authorities do not recognize his claim. The hunt for Escobar's billions continues, a mixture of fact and legend. Small stashes are unearthed occasionally, yet most of the fortune remains buried. Each discovery carries risk, and the search has claimed lives, fortunes, and reputations. For some, Escobar's treasure represents salvation. For others, it is a death sentence waiting underground. And still, the larger mystery persists. If law enforcement continues to uncover millions and treasure hunters refuse to stop digging, how much truly remains hidden? And who, if anyone, will ever claim it? The strangest discoveries of Escobar's fortune, however, have been far more than money: the bizarre contents of certain stashes. When fortune hunters arrived in Colombia, they came seeking wealth. Barrels of cash, gold bars, and jewels whispered about in cartel legends. But the earth often returned something far darker. Alongside rotting dollar bills and rusted firearms, diggers unearthed bones and shallow graves, some only a few feet deep, holding the remains of Escobar's victims. Fingers bound with wire, skulls shattered by close-range bullets, bodies abandoned beside the very fortunes that had cost them their lives. In some pits, the bones lay tangled with weapons and money, a grotesque reminder that in Escobar's world, cash and death were inseparable. Farmers digging irrigation trenches sometimes struck improvised coffins instead of barrels. The landscapes of Medellin, Antioquia, and the Magdalena River Basin became an archive not of wealth, but of terror. These were narco-time capsules, frozen snapshots of an empire built on greed and blood. During the early 1990s, investigators raiding Escobar's properties were stunned by what they found. Vaults contained crates of AK-47 rifles, grenades, and thousands of rounds of ammunition. In other locations, rocket launchers and body armor rested alongside stacks of US dollars. Each vault was a war chest designed to protect Escobar's fortune while arming him for siege at a moment's notice. Inside waterproof containers, authorities uncovered ledgers and documents far more dangerous than the firearms themselves. They detailed shipment schedules, coded financial transactions, and lists of bribes paid to politicians, police, and judges. Written with precision, these records mapped the Medellin cartel's reach from Colombia to Miami and even into Europe. For prosecutors, the ledgers offered a rare blueprint of Escobar's operations. The vaults were not the only carefully constructed spaces. Former associates described soundproof, windowless rooms with hooks and drainage systems, hinting at torture chambers or interrogation cells. Though not formally documented, these accounts aligned with Escobar's reputation for ruthless intimidation. In Medellin, Escobar built an entire neighborhood, Barrio Escobar, providing 1,000 homes for families previously living in squalor. To the poor, he appeared as a Robin Hood, giving dignity and shelter. Yet the neighborhood doubled as a fortress, storing drugs, guns, and money. Residents, bound by fear and gratitude, became his eyes and ears, reporting police movements, protecting stash houses, and serving as human shields for the man who ruled them. Escobar's reign was defined by violence. He is believed to have ordered the deaths of more than 4,000 people, including rival cartel members, police officers, politicians, and journalists. No one was untouchable. In 1984, he had Colombia's Minister of Justice gunned down for opposing him. He later orchestrated the assassination of liberal leader Luis Carlos Galán, who had tried to expel him from politics. In 1989, he planted a bomb on Avianca Flight 203 in an attempt to kill presidential candidate César Gaviria Trujillo. The plane exploded mid-air, killing 110 passengers. For Escobar, violence was not a side effect of business. It was business itself. When treasure hunters uncovered shallow graves, they confronted the brutality of a man who considered fear more powerful than money. Not all discoveries were so straightforward. Some bordered on the surreal, like gold bars and rare jewels hidden alongside ledgers at named corrupt officials, men in uniform, and public officials whose loyalty had been bought with hard cash. These documents were far more dangerous than money itself, revealing how deeply Escobar had infiltrated the Colombian state. To understand the empire's reach, one only had to look where Escobar buried both wealth and terror. Even today, in Medellin's Quimuna 8, his ghost lingers. Murals, guided tours, and souvenirs turn tragedy into spectacle. Streets that once ran with blood are now tourist paths, drawn by the myth of Robin Hood, who both gave and took away. The hidden graves and bizarre caches reinforce that myth, painting Escobar as a figure who blurred the line between legend and nightmare. For authorities, each bizarre find was double-edged. Cash and gold weakened the remnants of the Medellin cartel, but bones, ledgers, and improvised coffins reminded them of how much Escobar had poisoned the soil itself. When remains were discovered alongside caches at Hacienda Nápoles, the message was unmistakable. His fortune was cursed. The strange and chilling discoveries, bones, ledgers, and jewels, shattered any notion of Escobar as a folk hero. He was no Robin Hood. He built power through terror, bombing airplanes, ordering assassinations in daylight, and hiding not only money, but proof of his cruelty beneath the earth. Each discovery peeled back layers of myth, revealing an empire darker and stranger than even Hollywood dared to portray. Beyond the bones, gold, and blood-soaked ledgers, the buried cash carried another danger, the potential to revive, laundering, bribery, and entire towns suddenly flooded with illicit wealth. In Escobar's shadow, treasure always came with a cost. Thanks for watching. Now check out the videos popping up on screen for more incredible stories.